Welcome to Issues and Answers, a production of the Government Information Service. I am your host, Kishma Serie. Currently, St. Lucia is celebrating the Nobel Laureate Festival, happening from January 5th to February 4th. And in studio today, we have the chair of the Nobel Laureate Committee, Excellency Dame Paulette Louisi, and the PR coordinator and also a committee member, Ms. Delia Dolor. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us.
Welcome.
Beautiful. Now, the theme for this year was celebrating excellence, acclaiming our trailblazers, inspiring a nation. What generated that theme? What was the inspiration behind such a theme?
Well, every year we've been using the phrase celebrating excellence as was our main theme. And every year we have a sub-theme. This year, it took us a while to come up with something. We've been doing that for a good 20 years. So coming up with something new was a bit, difficult. But then came Julian Alfred. And then the blazing the trail. And then I said, and then when we saw the response, of the public, young and old, I said, this young lady has really inspired our nation. And so came up with that sub-theme, acclaiming our trailblazers, because that's in fact what our two Nobel laureates did, and then we had Julian happen this, last year. So that's the genesis of the theme.
Fantastic. I love that. I love that we could ride on the back of Nobel laureates and equally ride on the back of Olympians.
Yes, it's excellence in every sphere of endeavor. This is what we've been trying to bring to the public, because they think of Nobel laureates and they think this is kind of a high science academic
Elitist.
And elitist, and but we're trying to say that this is not what it's about. It is celebrating excellence in every field of endeavor and at every level. You have an excellent farmer, an excellent fisherman, an excellent economist. So this is what we really want, our nation, our people to appreciate and to understand, so that they don't feel, left out, that Nobel Laureate Festival is not for them, it's something for the elites, the academicians. So I'm hoping, that this takes root, and then we see excellence in everything we do.
I actually love that you said that. That is a very, very interesting point. I think it was in your address that you'd mentioned that there has been an issue with getting contributions from the public as it relates to the ideas for Nobel Laureate Festival. Why do you think that is, and generally what is the plan moving forward to both of you?
Well, as I said, I think the reason, why they don't think that they can make a contribution is because of the way they perceived it, When you talk about Sir Arthur, you talk about Derek Walcott, and they don't see themselves in that, in that class, at that level. So I suppose this, that's not for us. But that's what we've been trying, and we're saying celebrating excellence, and we've been trying over the years. Although this year, I think we're starting to get there, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. In fact, this year it's been my favorite theme. I don't know if it's because it's shorter than most of them.
Oh yeah, I come up with the theme every year.
Yes,
Sometimes
yes,
I think it's
yeah,
too long,
Yeah. But I don't know if it's because it has several key words, several verbs in it, the trailblazers, inspiring. And I think it's been easier to get that message across,
A little
not
more
only
of
to
a
the media,
punchline?
but to, yes, because everyone understands the concept of a trailblazer and inspiration. And more we have the young people getting involved with the festival, whether it's via the schools, whether it's families coming to some of the events. We see them more and more, like Paint the Village. More and more we're seeing families coming out. So I think that it's just been one of those, it's not just we're getting there, I think we are getting more participation and more involvement. So that's helping us to get there.
I love that. Now you mentioned the events, so let's talk a little bit about that. We had this Arthur Lewis lecture by Dr. Clarence Henry, and we had this Derek Walker lecture by Mr. Ishian Hutchinson, and if I did say his name wrong, I do apologize. But tell us about generally the attendance and the theme, what you gathered from it. How did it do due diligence, due justice, as it were?
Over the years, the Sir Derek Walker lecture has, had a bigger response, a better response, because I think persons, saw themselves, although it was Derek and it was literature, but it was the arts, and and they felt that they could see themselves perhaps. For Sir Arthur, it's always been a struggle, because once you say economics, that's it. And I think this year, I'm not too sure whether one was better attended than the other. I'm not too sure. I always sit at the front, so I don't look at the back to see, know whether the room was filled or not. But that has been our experience, I mean, there was a fact too that Derek, lived here, so, and, people knew him and saw him. So they came out, and, and it was poetry, it was culture, and, people felt more at ease with that. At least they thought they could, see themselves and appreciate the arts and the cultural parts. But we're still fighting to get people excited about economics, and that is why over the last few years we've been. When we started, we were bringing persons from outside, in the field, in economics, in literature. The last few years, and I would say maybe it's because of COVID, we figured out, we had to remain, local,
yes.
And more so to show the St. Lucian public that we're talking about excellence, and we don't appreciate that we have excellence
Right here.
right here.
Wonderful.
So it doesn't mean that once you're talking about something good and excellent, you have to import,
Yeah.
from abroad. So that is why we have
Madam Governor General, please hold on to that thought. I'll
Okay.
definitely want to hear your view, but we're going to take a
Take a-
break right now.
okay.
This is Issues and Answers. Please stay with us.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth. All the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. No, think about the children. Think about the children. How will we save them? Chemicals and GMOs are not the solution. Use organic and join revolution.
Excessive agrochemical use, additives, and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy, and consume organic. A message from Rise St. Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from the GEF Small Grants Program, UNDP.
The good food revolution.
Welcome back to Issues and Answers. And we are here with the chairperson of the Nobel Laureate Committee, Her Excellency, Dame Paulette Louise, and of course our PR coordinator and member of the committee, Ms. Delia Dolor. Now, just before the break, ladies, you were telling us about the activities and generally your perception of it. We were speaking to the various speakers as it relates to Sir Arthur and Derek Walcott. And Your Excellency, you're making the point that home have, basically.
That's
That we
yes.
could go look.
That's the way to put it. Home have, and let's have the proof that home has. And the last 4 years, particularly with Mr. Derek, we have used we have had as our presenters Adrian Auger, Kendall Hippolyte, McDonald Dixon. We had Travis Weeks, you know, and this year we broke it a little, but I mean, he's from Jamaica originally, so
We stayed in
made
the region.
in the region, and with economics. Some time ago, we had Dr. Aldry Henry. She's from the South Louis Institute of Social Sciences, but she's St. Lucian. And
Bernard Lacobinier.
who's that?
Bernard Lacobinier.
Oh yes, we have had Bernard Lacobinier, and this year we had Dr. Clarence Henry. You know, so we want people to understand and appreciate the fact that we have what it takes. I mean, we shouldn't have to be even saying that to them. The fact that we have 2 Nobel laureates, and I don't think people really understand or appreciate the import of that. We like to say St. Lucia is the country with the highest Nobel laureate per capita. I don't know if everybody understands what per capita is anyway, but it's to say that out 180,000 persons, we have 2. And the prize is given to somebody who has made the greatest benefit to mankind in their particular field, in a particular year. So if you understand that, you would realize that, well, yes, they had to leave, unfortunately, because you're small, so you can't expect to be able to give all your people everything they need. But the foundation is where they got the foundation at home, and this is what and then came back and and gave up their expertise, their knowledge, and that's what I want people to understand when we're looking at a small island state, and yes, you have to go away, but the fact that you go away doesn't mean you go away because there's nothing good at home. You got the foundation, you go out there, you build on it, and and you can stand, heads high and compete with the rest of the world. So that is what the Nobel Laureate Festival is all about, to let people know that we have. Yes.
I think sometimes the people don't have the right perception of what the word lecture means. If we go back in time, lecture was quite a formal situation where you take notes and but now it's different, and each lecturer or each presenter, they present in different ways. Some of them have their slides, some of them don't, some of them are very kind of formal in some of the words they use, but most of the time it's quite basic. They start, on a basic concept, and they build it, incorporate it to how it is in the world. This year we had with Ishan Hutchinson, he actually turned his lecture into a letter that he wanted to present to Sir Derek, had Sir Derek been alive. That went down really well. It was different, but it covered lots of things. When we started with Bernard Lacobinier, I think he was one of the first lecturers who actually broke down what is economics and took it home to us. And Dr. Clarence Henry, he did more or less the same thing, but incorporated it more into what's happening now and in the future. And also with technology, if you don't want to come to the lecture, you can watch it online. So there's so many different things that have developed. So people should not think of the word lecture and think, oh, I'm not going to that, I think it's not for me. You'll find that it very much is for you and for your family, and it does inspire you.
It is.
And I think you're right as it relates to the words. Similar to discipline, anytime we hear the word, it denotes something negative as opposed to, so lecture typically speaks of, homework. But as we're moving along, now as it relates to Derek Walcott, the knowledge and the deeper exposure to plays and poetry of Sir Derek Walcott, often happens with heavy involvement for tertiary or postgraduate level. And this, of course, is directed at any on both of you. How can we incorporate Derek Walcott's poetry and plays from a primary level? How can we start to cultivate the appreciation for the arts from grassroots, as it were?
Well, we used to incorporate the arts and literature and poetry and, that kind of the creative arts in the school curriculum. I'm sure, a lot of us can recite poems by Wordsworth and Keats, but then literature is not seen nowadays as something that, you should, spend money on or time on. I mean, the number of students who offer literature at CXC or even at Cape is on the decline. So it is really that I think we are probably trying to move away from, not really moving away, but from the arts and the humanities and perhaps putting too much of a, reliance on science and technology,
STEM.
Well, yes, or because people say, for example, they're not going to study French or Spanish or literature because what are you going to do with that? Mm-hmm. How are you going to make a living out of that? So that now we don't have literature, sufficient literature teachers, to have literature even at the secondary level, far less the primary. And people don't seem these days to do physics and chemistry, not all those bad things. Mm-hmm. They want computer science, technology. And so we need to recalibrate a bit and understand that the two, the arts and humanities, should be able to live, side by side with. That is why we have moved from STEM to STEAM, So it's science, technology, what was the E?
Engineering.
And maths,
Mm-hmm.
engineering and maths. So now it is science, technology, engineering, arts and maths. So it's from STEM to STEAM. So let's hope the STEAM
gathers momentum
and brings us up and rises up.
We will take a short break. When we come back, I would absolutely love to hear your point of view. This is Issues and Answers.
Suicidal thoughts, like other mental health challenges, can affect anyone. It can be you, your colleague, family member, or neighbor. Everyone has a role to play in preventing suicide. Know the warning signs. If you or someone you know is in crisis or emotional distress, call the suicide hotline at 203. Remember, help is available. This is a message from the Employee Assistance Program, Department of the Public Service. Contact us at 468-2269 or 468-2260.
Welcome back to Issues and Answers. And just before the break, we were about to speak with Ms. Delia Dolo as it relates to her views on incorporating poetry into our curriculum, and generally the future of the festival as it relates to grassroots. So, Ms. Dolo, the floor is yours.
I think that literature is one of the few areas that can be not only used as a career path, but also as a hobby. You can't lose. It's not like maths. It's something that you can use it anywhere that you want in your life. And also I think it gives you a sense of identity, especially when you leave home. The importance of literature for me, I didn't truly realize until I returned to St. Lucia and I saw the way that our schooling is structured. When my children went to kindergarten in St. Lucia, they left kindergarten thinking that they can do anything because they had their little graduation ceremony. They had to learn certain poems, St. Lucian poems and things like that, and it made them feel good. Between that time of kindergarten and growing up, unfortunately, it wasn't kept up in terms of feeding them some more Caribbean or St. Lucian literature. When I studied in the UK, we weren't taught any type of literature, but returning and becoming an adult, becoming involved with the Nobel Laureate Festival, of course, I started to learn more. I knew writers. I was fortunate enough to know Sir Derek. So it made me also realize my roots. I didn't truly understand the culture, my roots, and his writings, and the way he expressed his love for St. Lucia. It really did instill something in me that I do wish that we don't just celebrate them when the Nobel Laureate Festival comes around. And I'm sure within the education system, they are mentioned, our Nobel Laureates are mentioned at some point. But I think that if there was a way that it could be incorporated so that we're not just celebrating it as a festival, but they learn the importance of why our Nobel Laureates received their prize. You know, and as Her Excellency said, it wasn't their intention perhaps to go and not come back home or to leave St. Lucia. They didn't do it on purpose in terms of, they didn't have the idea, I want to win the Nobel Prize. All they wanted to do was to do the best that they could do. And the best that they could do got them the Nobel Prize.
Beautiful, beautifully articulated. Now, as it relates to Sir Arthur, and you were so right when you said that, the fact that he didn't leave here, there's somewhat of a disconnect. Because you would go to festivals and you'd see Sir Derek. So there was, of course, you know, posthumously now that, but even as I did some research on Sir Arthur, and I'm wondering, you know, he was the first black person to win a Nobel Prize in any scientific discipline. He was the first black student at the London School of Economics. Yes. He was the first to become a lecturer, first black person to do so, first black faculty member at the University of Manchester, as well as the first black person to teach at Princeton, where he did it for about 20 years. And I'm saying, with independence around the corner, and then even further with emancipation, and as we speak about national pride and as we speak about patriotism, how do we factor that in? How do we create that sense? Because even reading it, I felt very, you know, Lucian. Yeah, exactly. Yes. I felt very, oh, okay. So it takes away the abstract aspect of it, where, okay, it's just off, and now it's like, wait, this man breathed the same air that I breathe and walk on the same streets that I. So how do we drive that home? How do we get the feeling that I got when I read about, how do we translate that on a patriotic St. Lucian little boy level, little girl level?
I suppose you know, it's really the curriculum. In the case of Sir Derek, where we talked about, you know, the arts and literature. And it isn't that Sir Arthur was just pure economics. In fact, he was very much of the arts. One of his principles was that a society without the creative arts is a cultural desert, you know. And I think that there was once Adrian Auger tried to show the link between economics and arts when he talked about, you know, Sir Arthur. So that now we're now talking about the creatives, and you know, but to be, you know, a good creative, especially now people in the spoken word and all that, you need to have a sense of you know, that is literature. Maybe people don't see, you know, the rise and the growth of spoken word as literature, but it is the use of language and, you know, and thought. So that if we, in our division of arts and creative arts, even at, you know, at the level of, you know, at Sir Arthur, or even at the primary and the secondary level, you find ways of incorporating, just maybe not necessarily just Derek, but, you know, the Caribbean. And not just the Caribbean, because sometimes don't be too insular, you know. So give a mix. So we do that with Sir Derek, and we do that with Sir Arthur. More and more people, students now are doing economics. At first, economics was this thing that you didn't bother to even consider. But now students are doing economics at CXC, So, but I don't think that even in that study of economics, they study Keynes and all these other, foreign economists. But I don't get the sense that they have studied Sir Arthur and economics and development economics. Every now and then people say, oh, well, St. Lucia had followed Singapore and followed Sir Arthur's, precepts, we might have been in a different place. Well, having known that, what have we been doing about it? No point, complaining that St. Lucia didn't, let this pass. So it is to break down the economics, it probably will give us an idea of Sir Arthur's contribution to that field. And not just economics, not the scientific, technical economics. His was specifically development economics. And that is where we are now, as a developing country. So you need to understand the concept of development economics and see how you can relate that, not just to any country, but to a small island developing state.
Wonderful. Now, we're almost out of time, so just before we leave, anything you ladies would like to add? I know that there was a postponement of Otipawal Kweyol and some other activities. I know about your Mijabla. My daughter went to see that, came home very excited. So yes, anything that you would want to add?
On the whole, everything has been just wonderful. I'll be here all day. Because of the weather, we've had to postpone a couple of events, namely the Farmers Market and also the Atipawal Creole. At the moment, I believe the dates for that, the new dates are the 1st of February. But the best is if people go to our Facebook page at Nobel Laureate Festival St. Lucia, or they email us info@Nobel Laureate Festival St. Lucia, then we will send them all the information that they need. Also to remind people that even though the festival may end early February, there are certain things that they can watch online. So they can watch the lectures, so they can watch them wherever they are. That we also have a series of videos called Celebrating Excellence, where we have Sir Llewellyn Xavier, we have Tassel George, Daniel Dubois, and Calix George Jr., all talking about our Nobel laureates. We have Metaphorically Speaking, which is a podcast which draws the attention to the UK's first black consultant oculoplastic surgeon, who is from Soufriere. So all these things are online. And a lot of the performances as well, the drama productions, are online. So don't think that it's over. We're continuously there, and not just this year's events, previous year's events are there as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for your time. I have enjoyed speaking with you. And this is Issues and Answers. This is a production of the Government Information Service. I am Kishma Serie. We look forward to seeing you next time.